What will happen if the deepest fears and secrets are hidden behind a facade of calm? In a gloomy provincial town where every house seems to be frozen in expectation, time moves differently. Dusty streets lined with quiet, unremarkable homes seem endless. Here one can hear the wind whispering secrets rushing from one door to another. Behind every window are stories filled with hope and disappointment, happiness and fear. At first glance, this place is an oasis of silence, as if left in the past, but it is inhabited by multiple intrigues ready to erupt at any moment. Each spring, when the flowers begin to bloom, this town fills with the illusion of happiness. Yet few know that beneath this beautiful facade lies an ongoing struggle for power. People dressed in masks of virtue hide their true desires and dark secrets as if they themselves fear their shadow. Every glance, every gesture carries with it the tension seared with sparks of distrust. Here it is, the crack piercing the silence. An observer enters this world once again, a loner who, remaining unnoticed, twists the fates of the locals. His silent steps on the dusty paths become invisible threads controlling the lives of all those confidently playing their game. He is a shadow without power until he decides to play on their fears and weaknesses. But how far can he go when it becomes clear that it is the invisible threads of manipulation that can determine who the true master here is? Let's delve into this story where fact and fiction intertwine, opening our eyes to a world full of deception and mysteries. What if the truth lurking behind every corner has the power to change everything? What if the world you live in no longer exists? Imagine ruined cities where silence reigns on the streets. Landscapes consumed by time, abandoned buildings with cracked walls and windows like empty eyes. Gaze at people who no longer know what it is to live. Every step on the cracked asphalt echoes in the heart. The sky is overcast with gray clouds, as if someone has closed the door to the sun, where once rainbow days were filled with laughter and hope. The sandstorm of time swept away all living beings, leaving only lifeless traces. There are no sounds or light left here, only the wind whispers of times past when the world breathed and was full of life. Once joyful streets are now consumed by despair, and this desolate landscape becomes a reflection of the souls of people who tried to preserve the last spark of hope. Every day they look out the window, hoping something will change, but instead see only the reflection of their broken dreams. Where is nature? It is as if the very earth has turned away. Trees, once majestic guardians of life, have fallen under the burden of time and oblivion. Only shards of their trunks protrude from the ground, reminding of what was once beautiful. In this abandoned world, people slowly lose themselves. Fear for tomorrow does not let them rest, poisoning even the simplest joys. What is happening to us in this desolate space? We exist, but do not live. We wander these ruined streets like ghosts of our past, searching for meaning and sparks of life in the rubble. Every day is a struggle not only with the lack of resources, but also with what lives in our consciousness, driving us into panic, making us think that everything we once knew and loved is gone forever. Is that true? Or maybe it is in this despair that we will find the strength and courage to remember who we really are. Want to find out what lies behind the smiles of your neighbors and the friendly greetings in your town? Each of us holds a mystery. Behind the mask of everyday life, stories may hide that could change your perception of reality. Imagine this. A head librarian with a pristine reputation spends her nights immersed in crime novels, but as she discovers some characters resemble her own past all too closely. Or a music teacher whose sweet melodies are abruptly disrupted by screams coming from his apartment. where nobody knows he is battling not only rhythms, but also inner demons. What about the housewife who cooks beautifully in the mornings and smiles at everyone in the store, but at night descends into the world of dark online forums where secrets reside that could shatter her well-being? Or the local mechanic who seems to just repair cars, but in reality his garage fills not only with the smell of oil, but also with chains of secrets best left unknown? How do these hidden lives intersect, and what consequences may lurk around the corner? In our town, each of these characters suffers from their own dark secrets, and in an instant their fates may intertwine, revealing shocking truths. As they strive to keep their secrets, the real truth about each of them begins to surface. Are you ready to unravel these mysteries that could change your perspective on the familiar? Don't miss out, because what you see may shock you and make you ponder who is truly hiding behind the facade of your lovely town. What if I told you that in every city there is a person who goes unnoticed, and he knows more than meets the eye? In the heart of this small town, surrounded by old brick houses and the sounds of everyday life, lives a man whom no one knows by name. He is simply called the Observer. He always stands at the edge of the flow of people, around the corner from a cafe where there are too many conversations and too little understanding. His clothing is a worn cashmere sweater that remembers the warmth of many winters. Framed by thin lines, the Observer's face is hidden under the shadow of a worn cap, and his eyes, full of deep sadness and a misty light, penetrate the world. Every morning he watches as people hurry about their business, their faces filled with worries and hustle, and he feels that they are lost in this endless cycle. He knows that within each of them lies something more than meets the eye. He sees a girl with tangled hair running to the station, as if life is slipping away from her. An elderly man with a cane, lost in thought, forgets about time and himself. Each of their steps, every movement, is a small story for the Observer, which he collects in his imagination. But there is a sorrow in this town that is invisible to those around. It is like a shadow enveloping souls, an invisible barrier separating each person from another. The Observer feels this fully, as if a nail of loneliness and misunderstanding has pierced his heart. He touches upon his memories of when he was part of this world, when he sought connection and closeness. But now it seems he has become invisible, accepting the fact that he will merely be a simple observer. Like a delicate veil, sorrow envelops the Observer, strengthening his emotional isolation. He often wonders, where are all the people he has been waiting for? Why do they walk past, not noticing him? And in that moment he realizes that perhaps true connection is not about who is nearby, but about who is willing to understand. These thoughts penetrate his essence, creating that invisible thread that connects him to each of them, in their transitions, glances, and solitude. If you look closely, perhaps this world will reveal itself to you too, and you will see it as the Observer did. Or perhaps you will find yourself there in the shadows, longing to be heard or understood. Are you ready to learn the secret that will change your perception of power? In a world where confident people dominate, those who cannot seem weak are no longer the same. The protagonist knows that his inconspicuousness is not a weakness but a powerful advantage. Every day as he walks past offices and cafes, he observes how people eagerly discuss their successes and ambitions. But he is in no rush to reveal himself. On the contrary, he uses his silent mask to look deeper, catch the smallest details, and tune into the right tone. Who would have thought that invisibility turns into a strategy of circumvention? In ordinary conversations, he slowly throws in important questions that cannot be unanswered. "What are your plans for the weekend?" he asks, and what seems to be a typical response opens the door to the most valuable secrets of the interlocutor. In these moments, he sees how vulnerability truly becomes his strength. Every revelation, every incongruous detail is a brick in the wall of his arsenal. Want to know how to extract power from vulnerability? He suggests you find out, because in a world where boasting and showiness are at their peak, the key is to remain unseen by the outside gaze while being full of information and resources. It's not just a game of mind and social survival. It's an art. The ability to adapt and take steps back in order to move confidently forward. The protagonist realizes that it is in the shadows that others' desires are hidden, and he knows how to use this to manipulate, finding premises and making the right moves at the right moment. When he decides to take responsibility for a new project in the team, no one expects that his inconspicuousness will be the key to success. He is not verbose, but his ideas penetrate the background of group dynamics, and soon he becomes the invisible architect of their success. What is it like to be inconspicuous yet at the same time an asset in a complicated game? That is what you need to know. Weakness can become your greatest weapon if you know how to use it properly. Caution. This paradox may change your life forever. Are you ready to discover a secret that could change your life? Imagine this. A quiet evening. You hold a cup of hot tea in your hands, and whispers from neighbors drift through the walls. These voices become music to your ears, their conversations. Pure gold. Hiding behind the walls of their homes, people entrust their secrets to unreliable structures. Each whisper is infused with weaknesses, fears, and hopes. Like a detective, you jot down every detail in a notebook that transforms into a map of their vulnerabilities. A neighbor sharing with a friend how her job loss has thrown her off balance, while nearby is a man with constant financial issues. You already have a picture where every stroke represents a new opportunity. Information, like market stocks, increases in value. The hidden truth about everyone around you becomes your strength. You can manipulate it, achieve your desires, influence others like a family under the control of a puppet master. By learning to listen, you realize that true power is not just having authority, but knowing the facts that shape destinies. Each note is a testament that behind the facade of ordinary life lies a whole world of passions and fears. You can already see how easy it is to navigate this reality. When you have knowledge, you have control. It's time to consider, how important is information to you? Or perhaps you have become part of this game unaware of who might take advantage of your weaknesses. Have you ever wondered how easily one can fall into the trap of trust? Think about what happens when kindness goes too far. Here you are, a wonderful, caring person ready to help anyone who crosses your path. But what if the person you're helping is not just a neighbor, but a cunning manipulator plotting against you? The sun is shining brightly and you head to your neighbor's house, as always with a warm smile on your face. His car broke down and today he's asking to borrow a tool. You immediately agree, imagining how your gesture could brighten his day. The support is as real as it has ever been. Inside you, confidence is building. Here it is, a genuine act, for happiness lies in sharing. But then you watch as your neighbor takes your tool with a strange glimmer in his eyes. That fleeting look makes you freeze. Has he perhaps been planning something sinister? You start replaying all the moments, the unspoken things, and the odd conversations you've had with him before. How much do you really know about him? You try to push away the dark thoughts. It can't be, I helped him. But anxiety is already brewing in your mind. What if your kindness becomes a toy in his hands? Each of you carries a different version of this exchange. You give and he may be scheming something entirely different. The tension around you grows like a taut string ready to snap at any moment. With every one of his elusive words, you can't help but feel your head spinning with doubt. Your kindness becomes not a wing, but a burden, and a chance of betrayal lurks around the corner. You try to figure out where your mistake was, or maybe you were just too easily trusted. Will you be able to uncover his true intentions before it's too late? Remember, kindness can be deceiving. Are you ready to learn the truth about how your perception can change the entire dynamic around you? Imagine this. A neighbor you always considered an ordinary person suddenly finds himself in a difficult situation, and you begin to perceive him completely differently. It's just a small detail, but it changes everything. When our hero reaches out for help, the neighbors slow their pace, their eyes fill with sympathy. At first, it's just pity, but gradually something more emerges. The glances that once passed by now study him with interest. They reevaluate their previous judgments. He is not at all like we thought. He is just a person, like us. And so, instead of remaining in the shadows, the hero begins to gain new strength. The neighbors open up, sharing their stories and vulnerabilities. They understand that power isn't always about material wealth or social status, but often about sincerity and humanity. This changed perspective turns established rules upside down. The one who seemed weak becomes the center of their attention. Every time he opens the doors of his home, he sees how the atmosphere changes. Affection, compassion, the desire to help. All of this fills the street. The neighbors begin to act, uniting, and over time the gates for a new dynamic open wider. It's not just their desire to support him. It's the opportunity to be part of something more significant. And in this small corner of the world, something grand is happening. Perception changes the game. As sad as it may sound, only when someone hits rock bottom do we realize who we truly are. Ultimately, this is an example of how simply changing one's attitude can create a wave of change around us. Is this a temporary phenomenon? Or is it something that can change relationships in their community forever? With each new day, the humanity gained becomes an increasingly connecting link. Neighbors who once merely called to each other from windows begin to meet, share laughter, and support each other in tough times. Changes triggered by awareness often turn out to be more lasting than any walls built. What if I told you that everything you believed in might just be the tip of the iceberg? One day, as the hero was returning home, he noticed his neighbor Bagrat nervously smiling as he rummaged through his garage. This was the same Bagrat who always spoke about friendship and trust with bright, shining eyes. But today, something was off. Driven by curiosity, the hero decided to take a look inside. "Hi, Bagrat. What's new?" he asked, trying to hide his interest. Bagrat, as usual, began to talk about his hobbies, a collection of rare coins, but suddenly his voice grew quieter. In the same room stood an old box from which strange items peeked out. It was at that moment that Bagrat made a mistake. He mentioned a deal he shouldn't have talked about. "Yes, it's for my friend," he quickly added, but the hero caught the wave of tension in his voice. "Which friend?" he repeated, unwilling to miss any details. Bagrat, glancing with doubt, decided that it was best to leave the door to his secret open. It was that moment when the masks fell away and the shadows around him grew sharper. "You know, it's just business," he said, but fear and disagreement flickered in his eyes. The hero felt a stir of anxiety within him. What could Bagrat be hiding behind that brief phrase? And why did his voice tremble with every word? Secrets, like air in a stale room, began to fill the space. Every word of Bagrat's, every glance became signs pointing to the fact that his life was complicated by difficult choices. Or perhaps it was just a mask behind which heavy decisions and an endless chain of betrayals lay hidden. The unknown began to gnaw at the hero's inner peace. What if there was something more lurking in this innocent conversation? He stepped outside, but the aura of secrets continued to haunt him like a shadow. Danger was closer than he thought, and the home that once seemed safe had become a place saturated with intrigue and betrayal. How many more secrets could these walls hide? And what if Bagrat was not the only one who knew how to manipulate, leaving the hero in ignorance? What if I told you that your weaknesses could become your most powerful tool? Think for a moment. It is often vulnerability that opens the door to power. The protagonist of our narrative is a true master of this art. He knows how to create an atmosphere of dependency around him, using his flaws to manipulate those around him, making them provide him with the very power he himself is not aware of. Imagine being a neighbor who always seems insecure. Every time you share your fears, you evoke sympathy from your friends. But what if this approach is not just a coincidence? It is easy to create a false sense of closeness when your conversation partner feels needed. Thus, he becomes your hostage. You manipulate him, but with a smile on your face, as if you wish no harm to anyone. It is a paradox. From weakness comes power. Think of the students who are often forgotten in class. They joke, pretend not to pay attention, but this is only part of the plan. They gather information, establish connections that later turn into a network of influence. Every laugh hides a deep strategy. Every glance is an awareness of their capabilities. Our hero does not just play on his weaknesses. He understands that dependency breeds control. When you become a source of comfort for others, their tenderness turns into attachment. And thus, weakness transforms into a primary strength. You begin to manipulate their emotions. How does this relate to you? Perhaps you too sometimes get lost in your own fears, seeking support from others. But what if you learned not just to defend yourself, but to use your vulnerabilities as tools? This would open doors for you while also allowing you to maintain control over the situation. In this world where everyone suffers from some form of dependency, from the opinions of others, from emotions, understanding how to manage your vulnerability can become the key to true power. You have the opportunity to rethink how you view your fears. Do not fear them, use them. Are you ready to learn the truth about how loneliness can be the beginning of something great? A quiet evening, the streets of the city bathed in the soft light of street lamps. A solitary figure sits on a bench in the park. It's us, all just as oppressed and lost. Each of us carries within a fear of being misunderstood. Suddenly in the distance, a soft laughter is heard. Someone seems to just be walking. But this inexplicable feeling makes the heart beat faster. What if behind you lies a whole network of people who feel the same pain, the same vulnerability? We find the courage within ourselves and exchange glances that speak more than words. Thin threads of community begin to intertwine, forming an invisible connection. We were once broken, but now, coming together, our weakness will become our main weapon. A gathering in an old cafe, the warm candlelight illuminating faces. We share stories, laughter, tears. Every word spoken here is no longer just sound, but an echo of long-forgotten experiences. This shared vulnerability, this simple fact, we are not alone, energizes us. Our strength lies not in being perfect, but in being real with each other. Fears and anxieties fade away as we realize that each of us is like an unfinished piece of art. We begin to connect through honest thoughts we are glad to share. There is no place for judgment here, only support and acceptance. Face to face, truth reveals itself like a thick fog gradually cleaved by sunlight. When we hold each other's hands, we become stronger than ever. This circle is more than just a gathering. It is our support. We learn not to fear being vulnerable and open. Every word, every attention is a brick in building the wall that protects against loneliness. And now, as the looming clouds of oppressive isolation begin to disperse, we understand. To be strong means to allow ourselves to be weak. We are not just like-minded individuals. We are a family united not by perfect lives, but by the sincere cries of the soul. The realization dawns upon us. It is time to act together, to help each other, even when it seems the whole world is against us. Something greater than just a group is forming. It is a real community where everyone is valued. We embark on a new path side by side with those capable of understanding. Are you ready to be a part of this change? Do you know what others really think of you? Sometimes we see ourselves in one light, while those around us see something entirely different. At that moment, when I felt one step closer to the truth, a thought struck me. What if all this time I had simply been a pawn in someone else's game? For weeks I had been gathering pieces of the puzzle, guessing what lay behind deep glances and half-whispers behind backs. I sensed a storm brewing, but I couldn't predict how fierce it would be. Every clash, every smile was merely the beginning. Tension built up within me like a tightly stretched string ready to snap at any moment. When I received that mysterious call, everything fell into place. I realized this was no coincidence. The secrets lurking in the shadows loomed over us like dark clouds, ready to unleash at any second. I looked into the eyes of my old friend, and the more I contemplated his words, the clearer it became that something needed to change. But if only he knew what truth I had uncovered. A threat emerged on the horizon. I could feel that the conflicts I had inadvertently kindled were about to erupt into a fiery storm. And when this storm raged, I wouldn't have time to ponder. I had to act. But what if the truth I was seeking held not only salvation but also my own destruction? I steeled myself, knowing that in this game the emotional stakes had reached their limit. How long could I hide my fears? What would be the consequences when the truth finally surfaced? That evening I confronted what I had been afraid to even think about. Eyes filled with distrust and expectation, like sparks waiting for one thing, a spark of conflict. Can you guess what will happen next? In this confrontation, not only my secrets are at stake, but also the fate of those I hold dear. I understood I was no longer just a player, I was the target. Are you ready to learn the shocking truth about your neighbors? Imagine this. You wake up in the morning and everything around seems normal. But soon you notice the cautious looks from your neighbors, whispers behind your back turning into discontented glances. What is happening? Fear creeps into your heart. You can't sleep at night, tormented by the thought, what if they know something you don't? Do you know they're talking about you, planning something, perhaps even acting against you? Every rustle outside, every sound of a door triggers paranoia. You start to recall episodes that seemed insignificant before. Have you not mowed the lawn for too long? Have you not noticed how your cat disappears remarkably often? Every step you take is under scrutiny. Do they have evidence? What do they want from you? Maybe it's all just in your imagination? Or have they already decided that you are too weak to defend yourself? Thoughts pierce through the night. What if your neighbors have decided it's time to act? This thought gnaws at you like a little worm, and you realize today you cannot afford to relax. Every rustle sounds like a menacing blow, reminding you that paranoia can become your most faithful friend or your most sinister enemy. You look out the window and every face beyond it appears hostile to you. How did you know this is happening right now? For some reason, faith in people has dissolved, and the moment comes when you realize you are alone in this world of fear, where everyone can become a potential threat. How will you act? What will you do when their whispers become screams? This question remains unanswered, and only fear continues to grow like dark clouds gathering on the horizon. What if I tell you that weakness can conceal enormous potential? Neighbors had long noticed how the hero tried to avoid conflicts. His smile and kindness had become a sign of weakness to them. One day, gathering in the yard, they decided it was time to put an end to it. The determined look of one of them became a signal for the others. Their whispers turned into a loud discussion about the need to restore order, and so, under the cover of night, they decided to teach him a lesson. Darkness enveloped the yard, and they stealthily approached the hero's house, beginning to pelt the windows with small stones. This was meant to scare and enlighten him. They laughed and discussed how he was probably trembling with fear. This will teach him, they thought. But they had no idea what awaited them ahead. Hearing the noise, the hero stepped outside. Illuminating the night with only a weak flashlight, he stood in their way. But before he could say a word, an unexpected flame ignited in his eyes. At that moment, the neighbors realized they had made a mistake. Their laughter faded, turning into near panic. He did not run away. He was not scared. The hero, once seen as defenseless, became the center around which events swirled. His confidence crashed down on them like a hurricane. No one expected him to be so strong. They froze, as if frozen in a movie where each frame reflected the naivety and delusions of their own notions of strength. "Did you think I was just a smile?" he said challengingly, his voice echoing off the walls. His words struck them deeper than any insult. Each neighbor took to heart this truth. Real strength does not always shout. It was a confronting reality when they understood who they really decided to deal with. Not knowing how this confrontation would end, they faced a simple lesson. Weakness can be a deception. And at that moment, when the tension reached its peak, the neighbors sitting on the benches realized that not all battles could be won with numbers or laughter. I wonder what will happen next. What if I told you that true strength lies hidden within each of us and can manifest at the most unexpected moment? Against the backdrop of rising tension, all eyes are on the protagonist. He stands at the edge, surrounded by enemies who laugh and are confident of their victory. There are no doubts in their eyes. They have outplayed him. He is helpless. But something changes. The moment slows down. In every corner and every breath, energy is concentrated, ready to burst free. His heart beats like a drum. A powerful surge of rage and determination overwhelms the hero. And like a volcano ready to erupt, he recalls all those moments when he was underestimated. Every jab, every humiliation. All of this is etched in his soul, forming a steel will. Through the laughter of his enemies, he feels silence within himself. This is not just a struggle, it is a battle for his existence. And in that moment, he understands that he possesses something they cannot take away. His true power. He raises his head, filling his chest with air, and then unleashes his fury. Suddenly he moves like a storm, growing stronger with each motion. Reality distorts. His hands begin to glow, energy radiates with unprecedented force. The enemies, once so sure of their victory, suddenly freeze in shock. They do not understand what is happening. The determination in the protagonist's eyes speaks. I am no longer the hunter, I am the predator. One powerful strike and the world around him explodes. The weaknesses of the enemies become apparent. Their confidence comes under fire from their own fears. They now realize that in their hands lies the illusion of power, while he is the embodiment of an invisible force that cannot be controlled. This moment, this unexpected twist symbolizes a new future. The strength that has freed him now prepares him not only to resist but to fight for his life, for his dreams. Inviting the audience to see that no one can predict when darkness will give way to light, when weakness will turn into strength. All secrets are revealed, and only now do they understand that true power comes at the moment of greatest pressure. Are you ready to learn the truth about how battles are truly won? At this moment, when everyone thinks the conflict has ended, it is only beginning to take new forms. Our hero stands at the pinnacle of victory, yet is unaware of those who were involved in the struggle. He smiles, gazing at the darkness from which he emerged, while his soul is overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. He has achieved triumph, but some vague sorrow shrouds his heart. Laughter and joy surround him, yet deep down he knows. The shadow he inhabits is not only a protective refuge, but also a prison of his own making. Every step he took for his power has left a trail of pain and loss behind him. He has become a master of manipulation, but the price paid was too high. Perhaps this triumph holds not just joy, but also emptiness. He looks back at those he left behind and asks himself, were they merely pawns in his game? Each roll of the dice on the chessboard of the past reminds him that even winners sometimes feel like losers. Minutes pass, and he still wavers between light and darkness, trial and fortune. The world may perceive him as a hero of success, but is the medal he wears worth what he lost along the way? He is showered with attention, but at what cost? A soul filled with shadow resonates like a reminder of vibrant battles. Each stroke of fate echoes in his consciousness, causing him to doubt whether he has condemned himself to loneliness by following a path illuminated only by his own ambitions. And now, having achieved his desires, he questions what truly lies behind this victory. Now that all his enemies are vanquished, he is once again alone, in the shadow. This is a triumph no one will speak of. This is a power that entices but destroys from within. The only choice is to surrender to the cries of conscience or to continue on a path led by the dark side. And in this moment, the hero realizes his victory is not a concluding note, but merely a prologue to a new story, where the shadow becomes the vulture of his own hopes. How can one rejoice when they do not know what it means to be free? What happens when you stop limiting yourself? Among quiet streets where everyone knows each other, small intrigues flare up into big battles. In this world filled with rumors, gossip, and struggles for status, our hero, with a slight smile on his face, watches his neighbors through the window. Their screams and fits remind him of kindergarten, where adults never learned to play by the rules. Like an invisible conductor, he orchestrates this symphony of conflicts, giving each person their lesson, followed by silence, waiting for his turn to play the final note. The neighbor's fists show signs of fatigue, while the neighbor across, arms spread wide, seems to be trying to rise above the chaos. But no one understands that this puppet show is his work, his devoted game where he defends his own interests. Every conflict, every tear and every word are pieces of a mosaic assembled into a single picture, with him remaining the main figure, the elusive architect of their fate. And so, gazing into this theatrical spectacle, he realizes, sometimes it's easier to stay in the shadows than to shine on stage. He chooses to prefer the mysterious world backstage, playing with his neighbor's emotions like puppets on strings. Can this be considered good or evil? It seems to be an eternal question to which no one will give a clear answer. But isn't it wonderful that life is full of such unexpected twists? He laughs to himself, for sometimes to achieve stability, you need to encourage those around you, making them believe they are playing the leading role. With a smile on his lips, he steps away from the window, diving into his thoughts about the fact that true strength is not in open confrontation, but in the ability to stay one step ahead. This quiet, unremarkable man holds a secret, and his truth lies in power over changes. He knows that the real surprise is always hidden behind the fence. On this peaceful note, their battle continues while he, as an all-encompassing observer, welcomes the new day with hope for fresh ideas and unexpected intrigues, never forgetting that the world is just another game. What happens if I tell you that strength and vulnerability are two sides of the same coin? Imagine a person standing on top of a mountain, pride and power radiating from them. They scream into the wind, confidence beating in their chest, and their voice carries far around. But what if behind this stunning image lies a secret? Consider whether they are truly strong. Or perhaps their power is just a mask for the fear that hides deep inside. Compare them to someone who stays in the shadows. This person quietly observes life, not striving for far-reaching goals, but their insightful eyes see more than we can imagine. Their strength lies not in their voice, but in their ability to understand and analyze, in their skill to make wise decisions and change their fate unnoticed by others. Who is truly strong? The one who openly displays their power, or the one who remains in the shadows, observing and reflecting? In a world where strength is often associated with power and aggression, how often do we forget about that quiet, unremarkable strength that can be the key to understanding ourselves and others? Think about this. Vulnerability shown in silence can be more powerful than any cry of strength. In this noisy world, take the time to ask yourself this question. After all, true strength lies in staying true to yourself, regardless of how others perceive your essence.